Welcome to the What is Stoicism podcast.
Marcus Tullius Cicero was a Roman statesman, lawyer, scholar and philosopher who produced what is now one of the most renowned collections of historical and philosophical work in all of classical antiquity. While Cicero wasn't a practicing Stoic himself, he was certainly a student of Stoicism and wrote extensively about the philosophy. This makes his writing just as important to us today as that of the likes of Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, as it helps us get a further picture of how Stoicism was practiced in the ancient world. In his work on duties, for example, Cicero shares how the four Stoic virtues should guide one's actions. In the following passage, by defining its opposite, he skillfully hints at how one should practice justice. Quote, "There are two kinds of injustice, the one on the part of those who inflict wrong, the other on the part of those who, when they can, do not shield from wrong those upon whom it is being inflicted. For he who under the influence of anger or some other passion wrongfully assaults another seems, as it were, to be laying violent hands upon a comrade. But he who does not prevent or oppose wrong, if he can, is just as guilty of wrong as if he deserted his parents or his friends or his country." End quote. Marcus Aurelius would later echo this sentiment, writing to himself that injustice is the outcome not just of action, but often of inaction as well. Speaking of duties, the Stoics believe that we all have a duty to one another. Yes, it's a great start to refrain from harming others, but we must also engage in our communities by helping those who need it. As Cicero goes on to say, and as will be useful for us to remember today, if we want our actions to be just, then we need to regularly apply our capabilities to the needs of others. Quote, "There are some also who, either from zeal in attending to their own business or through some sort of aversion to their fellow men, claim that they are occupied solely with their own affairs, without seeming to themselves to be doing anyone any injury. But while they steer clear of one kind of injustice, they fall into the other. They are traitors to social life, for they contribute to it none of their interest, none of their effort, none of their means." End quote. When those unfamiliar with Stoicism learn about the four cardinal virtues of wisdom, justice, temperance, and courage, they're sometimes disturbed that kindness isn't among them. Kindness, however, is indeed a huge part of Stoicism, and is essentially a subdivision of the virtue of justice, which governs how we should treat others. Seneca was clear that we should not be hesitant when it comes to kindness and good deeds. Quote, "The bookkeeping of benefits is simple. It is all expenditure. If anyone returns it, that is clear gain. If he does not return it, it is not lost. I gave it for the sake of giving. No one writes down his gifts in a ledger, or like a grasping creditor demands repayment to the day and hour. A good man never thinks of such matters, unless reminded of them by someone returning his gifts. Otherwise they become like debts owing to him. It is a base usury to regard a benefit as an investment. Whatever may have been the result of your former benefits, persevere in bestowing others upon other men." End quote. Cicero offered the following advice on what our response should be if we are the recipient of an unexpected good deed ourselves. Quote, "What ought we to do when challenged by an unsought kindness? Shall we not imitate the fruitful fields, which return more than they receive? For if we do not hesitate to confer favours upon those who we hope will be of help to us, how ought we to deal with those who have already helped us? For generosity is of two kinds, doing a kindness and requiting one. Whether we do the kindness or not is optional, but to fail to requite one is not allowable to a good man, provided he can make the requital without violating the rights of others." End quote. Following Cicero's and Seneca's advice then, we should keep track of the good deeds done to us, and willingly lose track of the good deeds we do. We should be abundant in our kindness, without expecting a return on that investment, and we should repay with interest the unexpected kindness we receive. We should reward without expecting or requiring to be rewarded, because the doing of a good deed is reward in itself. That's Stoic justice.